Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Today I have Narayan with me, who's the head of marketing of Bajaj Auto. I have Ratnesh, who heads CX strategy and the GTM leader for Oracle India, and Sarvagya, who is the marketing lead for Oracle India. Uh, Narayan, we'll start with you a little bit. Why don't you take us through a bit of your journey, which has been a pretty long journey, and some challenges that you faced as you've gone along this journey, and we'll talk a bit more after
Yeah,
that.
sure. Thanks, Divya. Thank you for hosting me today. Um, it feels quite good to talk with like-minded people about marketing, which is something that which has been my profession and also has been my passion for a long time. So, I've been working now for more than a quarter of a century. And have worked in sales, marketing, business, led P&L, and more recently in the automobile sector, heading marketing for Bajaj Auto. So it's been quite a interesting journey for me. I've worked in India, I've worked in overseas markets, I've worked in Southeast Asia, the developing parts of Southeast Asia. I've also worked in Asia, in Australia and New Zealand, as well as Japan, which are more developed parts of Asia, so to say. Worked across a range of categories in the FMCG space like confectionery, chocolates, uh, candy gum, biscuits, beverages. Did some time in the entertainment business as well. I worked in Star TV for a couple of years, which was quite a ride.
Wow.
And more recently, sort of in the last 3.5 years, I'm in the auto sector. So that's a bit of my professional journey. Personally, I split my time between Pune and Mumbai. My family is in Bombay, so I get back there on the weekend. Monday to Friday, I'm here in Pune. And so I'm like a commuting professional, which, it's not very unique. I think a number of people have discovered commute. So that's this one. My wife is a life coach. My son is in going to grade 9 now. And yeah, that's sort of what I like doing, other than outside of my work. um, I'm fairly interested in reading. I do a bit of running and keep up with fitness. I read quite a bit, tending towards more on the non-fiction as well as things about business and marketing and things like that.
Wow, great. I used to be a commuting professional as well before I took the plunge. And I used to be on a flight literally, on Monday I would hit Bangalore, by Wednesday I would hit Bombay, and by Friday I would hit back Gurgaon and Delhi. So that was my life. So completely empathize. Uh, but,
Yeah,
but
yeah, those days are, I mean, for you, I mean, even if you were still in that mode, I think taking a flight and doing this Monday, Wednesday, and then back, I think now has a lot of challenges given, things
no,
are
totally. I
shut.
think
Yeah.
we'll see how the world actually evolves out of this entire COVID situation. Ratnesh, why don't you take us through a little bit about your journey as well in these, decades
Yeah,
of experience that you have as well.
yeah. So essentially, Ryan, when you were telling me about yourself, I was actually listening, and I was, getting this thing that it is you're probably me 2.0 or same thing, because there was so much of familiarity and commonality between yours and mine. Same, just 24. I was a bit junior than you that way. I just started I think I completed 24 years, and I'm entering my 25th year now, a month earlier, right? So, same, I have been working globally. I've been in broadly in the customer experience side, so broadly sales service marketing side of things, good old CRM, they used to call it now, different lingos, but yeah, one and the same. And I've worked primarily, I started my career in India, but then moved overseas, then moved towards Asia Pacific, and then 2006-7 kind of thing came back. But I've primarily been working more on the consulting side of the things, which means or with system integration partners. So I've been more or less more always on the customer side of things. But yeah, life keep changes, customer keep changes. Again, primarily worked, started a lot working in FMCG. So when you had that, so I worked on large projects with Unilever, ITC, Hindustan Lever here in India, working with them quite closely. Incidentally, media, I worked in D2H space with a couple of customers, uh, with Airtel, and then a very long time with Sundirect in South. And then with automobiles, so I've been working again with a lot of automobile customers in my span. Now I do obviously get opportunity to work across various other industries in my role, so I do work across with. But yeah, if you ask me what are my two, three broad industries where I believe I can say a word or two and somebody will listen, is probably these three. Yeah, but there have been other horizontals also. That's just my background. Uh, I have also been always. I am still commuting, but yeah, I leave those 15 months from. But I will still always on the flights and traveling because I've always been on a customer front end. Uh, though I do look at in the India Oracle go-to-market strategy, so there's a lot of an inward work out also involved. But again, I think the culture has been to meet face to face. I think this is now going to take a change, hopefully, and people will not call to see face to face for some internal meetings, which was like how the culture was. I believe pandemic has taught us things can be done in a much better and probably equally effective way now. My wife works, she's also in IT industry, but she's in HR. And my two daughters, incidentally, are high one is going to college this year, and junior one is still a few more years to slog in the school. So yeah, that's where we are.
And you're based in Gurgaon, is it?
No, I'm based in Bangalore. I've been in Bangalore now for almost 16 years.
No, I asked because you were cribbing about the weather, and it's very strange to hear someone crib about the weather in Bangalore.
No.
He
Weather
wasn't
is
cribbing. It was Sarvagya and I who were cribbing.
Oh, that was me.
We
Oh,
didn't.
I'm sorry.
no.
Okay.
You guys are in Gurgaon.
No. I think that's the only sane thing which is keeping me in Bangalore. Believe me, I think everything has gone for a toss in Bangalore. Infrastructure, traffic, it's just bad. It's just the weather which has kept me. And obviously, my family is now settled here. But yeah, otherwise, I'm from Delhi. Most of my near Indias are there. But yeah, more now Bangalore that way.
Okay.
Sarvagya, why don't you tell us a bit about your career and your journey and some challenges that you face as you moved in this journey?
Sure. So I've been a digital guy, Narayan, and at the same time a product marketer. I have worked for technology giants like Google and now Oracle itself. And then in my product marketing role, I worked with Huawei and Samsung launch their flagship smartphones. Um, in terms of what I enjoy doing is, of course, I love the CX business of Oracle. It's very intriguing and intuitive for me to learn more and more about customer experience, how we can help our clients, the existing one and the newer ones who sign up with us. And of course, I miss the B2C side, which used to be a lot of fun, a lot of work. B2B is different. And challenges, of course, it comes with the different industries, and also the kind of market approach you have when it comes to B2B. So just taking those challenges and trying to convert them into opportunities is what I'm doing in my daily work life. And what I like doing is adventure sports. Going to Zanskar like almost in a day. So that's something I'm looking forward to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So guys, just a little background about me as well. I'm Divya Pratap Mehta. I've been largely on the strategy side in advertising, worked for some large agencies. I started my career, interestingly, almost 25 years back. So we were almost contemporaries in that sense. I started in 97. So I'm running my 25th year as well. Worked on some large clients across South Asia in the beginning. Started with my career with Reckitt's, and then I launched Happy Dent, Perfetti in India, Bridgestone in India. Moved on to some large agencies so I was doing a Unilever regional role I was with Lintes. Then I used to work out of Bangkok on Unilever Asia Pacific on Dirt is Good. So all the strategy and planning across Asia used to be done by me. And then I moved back to India with Gray, where again I did an APAC role and a global role, where I was working with the New York office and very closely working with offices across APAC with Gray. My last role, I was the chief strategy officer for Publicis here in India, and we were trying to bring social, shopper marketing, activation planning, digital planning, along with creative and brand planning, which is obviously the core and the classical areas where we all began our careers. So, and last 7 years, I run Intertwined, which is a consulting firm as well as a D2C digital marketing firm where we help clients. So we largely do consulting, but we also do creative. So that's really my background. With that, Narayan, I'll move to the core topic, which is the future of marketing and challenges for now. And we've been living in highly disruptive times. I think in some ways, I tell people like, as you know, these 25 years, especially if you see, I've literally seen an office with a printer for the first time, to a laser jet printer for the first time, which changed our lives, to technology literally changing our lives in terms of, how you don't need to travel a lot to carry either artworks or films, etc., which could be just beamed up through, technology. And now with COVID, so with all these disruptions, what do you think is the future of marketing and challenges that marketers will face that we need to be ready for?
Yeah. So look, I think as I reflect on my career as a marketer, I mean, marketers have always been challenged, and I think it comes a little bit with the role. And of course, my view may be quite informed by my experiences, which were in the FMCG space. But I think it holds true for the function, and really marketing was about how a business can get growth, how it can acquire customers, how it can build brands that are differentiated in the minds of the customer. So how do you build all of this, how do you acquire customers, and this is what marketing is about. And I think there was always this challenge saying ki all this is right theoretically, but please tell us how you are delivering outcomes. Okay, you build a brand, it's nice and emotional and fluffy, nice images, but how are you going to bring in dhanda? So I mean, if I think back a little bit, I think marketing has always been challenged. I think what has changed in the last maybe more than a decade is that I think these challenges have sort of got amplified even more. And somewhere I suspect that marketing and marketers themselves have sort of lost their sense of purpose to sort of put down and be clear about, why do they exist? I think that's the biggest challenge that I see for marketing, is to define its purpose, because a lot of what happens in marketing has started to get very fragmented. So there is something called digital marketing, there is something called content marketing, there is something called something else. I mean, it just sounds very complex, but one can't argue, yes, all of this is important, but they're all activities, right? So how does this whole thing roll up to a larger singular purpose is, I think, the biggest challenge as far as marketing is concerned.
Wow, that's a pretty interesting area. In any case, there's a lot of conversation around purpose per se in marketing in the last few years.
And yeah, no. So before you say that, I don't mean purpose in that way.
You mean purpose in that way. You mean purpose in the sense of putting together a system together, like of creating a marketing system while you have different legs to it.
Correct. I mean, at the end of the day, marketing has to help the business deliver its objectives, and therefore, how is marketing? What outcomes are you working towards? And that's what I'm saying as purpose. I'm not talking of the,
Got it. It's not about the brand purpose, but more at from an objective perspective of, what is the purpose of marketing, and therefore, how do you actually align all these activities to eventually, deliver to the objective or the purpose.
That's right.
In that sense, right. Ratnesh, any views on that? On what you feel from what Narayan said in terms of our challenges and And he made a very interesting point that marketing was always challenged, which I thought is very interesting. And it's been a dynamic function. It is a dynamic function. So what are your views on that?
No, no, totally agree. I think, though obviously the context changes, the artifacts or execution methodologies, or you say whether you think the digital marketing or content marketing, or you the whole traditional advertising space, I think that keeps changing today. And then things like these pandemics brings out new flavor, adaptability, and you still have to reach out to the customer. uh, I think what I could also relate to this was this whole concept of singularity of the organization. So marketing, there used to be a sales, there used to be a service, there used to be a CEO office, there used to be a CEO office, and then there used to be a marketing office. And they would bring their plans, typically annual planning cycles, and then they said, this is what I would do, this is what I would do. There would be somebody maybe at the top would make and say this is how the things would run. I think the challenge now with marketing, and I think is with all the functions, is that the fusions have happened, and fusions have not happened only at the C levels, or an organization strategy breaking into objective, into task. And that's where some things of these departments meet now today. I think organizations are fused, and that's also because of the customer behavior, new dynamics, globalization. So many things have happened in a way that the departments differentiation between roles and responsibility, like between a, yes, service is service, right? But in, again, service, people talk about how will you get revenue, service marketing, there is this, just giving an example, right? Sales and marketing virtually fused together now. Customer experience, when you say, it has tentacles everywhere, right? So like in my role, right, I'm a go to market head, right? So when I do and plan a go to market for and I believe this is a maybe a bigger umbrella, a higher umbrella, which it's where marketing comes in. So like just giving my example, right? When I plan and we are doing a planning for go to market, so I have marketing, I have PR, I have channels, I have sales, I have there's this whole fusion, and the whole thing is to make that whole thing work. And that's actually how what my role broadly comes into picture. So I sit with Sarvagya, figure out how he will make this role happen and these objectives happen. Then but it cannot be in singularity. I have to work with sales, I have to work with BD, business development, I have to work with PR. And I believe this is the same when I go to different customers. I believe the same thing. No, it's not a marketing team working in silos and saying this is what I will do and maybe this is how I will grow. It's like service team sitting there, production team sitting there, production team sitting here, tell us what do we do, what are the new things which we make. It's in product marketing sitting there, sales and marketing is co-joined, and CEOs of the world sitting together and all trying to bring this out, because this is the new world, right? Everybody is fused together and making it work. So marketing is challenging, but I believe what in the overall context means is the marketing has much more broader role today than probably what it was 10 years back in an organizational ecosystem today.
Narayan, did you have any builds on that? And also, like when you say that, there are many things that we are doing, like digital marketing, content marketing, traditional marketing, if you may call it so, etc. What are the things you feel marketing people should do to actually be more objective driven or purpose driven, and how do you feel people should actually bring these systems together?
So I think one thing that I do agree with Ratnesh is that, and I think he makes a great point, that there is a huge amount, much greater amount of collaboration required to deliver a lot of things, and I think that's what he's alluding to, the singularity.
Yes.
And I think that collaboration is a skill that again marketers and I think not just marketers but everybody in any organization which is talking to customers. People need to hone that. And I think collaboration often doesn't come easy to people. Collaboration is not about, sort of being polite and, saying hi, hello to everybody. I mean, it goes beyond that. It is genuinely, aligning to a common purpose, sort of working jointly towards objectives, as he was saying. So I think collaboration is one thing which is probably new in today's world, enveloping the entire marketing customer orientation world that we talk about. And it was not so many years ago. I think many years ago, you could be a marketing department, or you could be, as Ratnesh was saying, you could be a sales organization, and yeah, you could do your thing and still business outcomes used to happen. But nowadays, I think this collaboration is becoming very, very important. So that's one big change. I think to the second part of your question, see, I think one of the questions that, yes, there is digital marketing and there is content marketing and various kinds of things. I think we must just pull out a little bit to say that the common word called marketing, what is it supposed to achieve? Because otherwise then it gets a bit diffused. Because, what gets done on the digital front and what gets done in the service front or, somewhere else, they're all right in their own way. But, what is that common objective? I mean, and that in my view is the marketing strategy for a brand or for a company. And it's very important that everybody sees it that way and then takes action. Otherwise, it's just a random set of actions being done and all of them are called marketing.
No, that's true. But in some ways, what you guys are alluding to is a very ideal world. So what I wanted to understand was, are there any systemic things that you think people can do, or say marketing heads can do, or forget marketing heads of various departments in a company that they can do together? Or are there any systemic things that you guys are doing at the moment that you would like to share with us, which you feel actually can help us create this more collaborative, single purpose world and view, and so that corporates can run like that?
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think it goes back to the challenge. I mean, you're right. It sounds very idealistic, but it is also, in my view, it is a very simple construct, which can get very complicated unnecessarily if we are not all careful. And I go back to your first question, saying that, what are the challenges facing marketing? I think this is the challenge. Because the question that is being asked by a lot of people, within an organization, I'm saying whether it's the CEO or the CFO, is saying, ki, boss, how are you delivering outcomes? Can you please show me by doing these set of actions, what is the benefit? As in, okay, you're supposed to drive revenue. So tell me how you're driving revenue. Now, how does one start to, progress on answering these questions will require this sort of common understanding of, okay, what is marketing strategy? What is our strategy? And how do the actions then line up against that? And it is a challenge. I mean, and I think Ratnesh has hit the ball, very, very cleanly when he says that it requires that collaboration to happen. It needs everybody to see data in the same way, for example. It needs everyone to see information and process information really quickly. And that's the other point that is happening in today's world. Information flows really, really fast. And, you need to take action fairly quickly. And, obviously how fast you need to react depends on which industry you're in. But yeah, I mean, you need to be really quick. You need to, everybody see it the same way. Therefore, if not 100%, at least even if 30% of your actions are sort of aligned, I think you will have better outcomes.
Rakesh, you have any builds on that? Like, how can you actually create a more integrated system, a singular view system?
Oh yeah. So this is my favorite. So in fact, I'll give an example, and then you probably will definitely relate to this. So this is one of the auto companies, and this is a couple of years back. We went in, and it was broadly around the acquisition discussions and all that. But then I think the broad centricity or the things on which organizations are moving is making customer as the center, right? So how do we first, I think, so aligning themselves and saying customer centricity. So I was talking to this CIO, so it's a more IT discussion, but you would rate. So he said, Ratnesh, the biggest problem I have is that, and what you just say, we need to do collaboration, we need to, all systems should work together. All my departments should have access to each other's data. But my biggest problem is that I do not have a customer unique record. Because traditionally, my organization revolves around the vehicle record. So you're saying for me, the entire system for last 15 years have been designed around a VIN number. So it's you tell me a win and a 360-degree of a win, I can get all the systems integrated, so just to win is the car
Vehicle
win number,
information
right?
number.
Yeah, you understand. I was telling Divya on that.
Yeah,
and
I'm
and
aware of
and he said that, you tell me about when did it left, when was it manufactured, when did it got sold, what was the service history record. Same customer, he buys another vehicle, another win, and I have a problem, or he has recommended something and he's now lead and he's working on the third vehicle for maybe his father. I don't know about that, right? So if I have to realign and say what value, what is the lifetime value of this customer, how do I approach this customer? And they were bringing in a luxury set of segment in India. So they said, if I have to, attract and upsell them to this, I don't know how to do it. So, the whole thing turned around and said, so he got the thing bang on that the whole way this has to be glued together is a customer 360. But we were so focused, we built our manufacturing systems first. And this was all on that win. For us, win was sacrosanct. With a win, you could do everything, track from right from production to sales to service and, customer interactions and all that. The problem happens in this today's world where the customer says, boss, you don't even know that I have two vehicles of yours and I'm about to purchase a third one. All your future interactions on what you want to do and the expectation of the customer is aligned in next one, but you are still out there. So bang on, to do all that you need to pivot your thing, and it is not system. Then you have to pivot the processes, you have to pivot the culture, you have to pivot the organizations around that. So it is a very simple saying customer 360, but just giving an example, from a vehicle 360 to a customer 360, it's a culture change, it's a process change, it's a people change.
That's so true. Like, and at some level, it is like marketing 101, literally. Like, even when we started our careers, the first thing we used to say, we taught literally was that, are we thinking like a customer? Are we thinking like a consumer? Are we thinking like a human? And then building our entire experience and our entire business conversation around it. Uh, Narayan, any builds on that, or any areas on especially this, customer centricity versus vehicle centricity, as this.
So I mean, I'll go back. You may say that I'm being very philosophical, but I was smiling because both of your comments, right? No, so when I started my career, it was very important to, customer insight. Think like a customer. Put yourself in the customer's shoes. But now things have changed to an extent where, like what Ratnesh was saying is, can I know everything about that customer? Right? It's a very different. Now, I don't know. I mean, we are all customers in our, outside our professional lives, right? How many of us really want to give out all this information? Is I think about this, and I have a feeling that a lot of people are now, because of the amount of sort of the digital media that they interact with, and people are knowing ki tracking hota hai, how much of information I'm giving, not giving, and they're being very sensitive about it. So I don't know whether we'll ever get to a situation where we will be truly 360 of a customer, which is, again, the idealized state. You say that, when in the early days of digital, it was from marketing to many to marketing to one, right? And that was the dream. I think marketing to one to nahi hone wala hai. There's just too much of risk, and as customers, they have problems with that. You don't want to give away so much of knowledge about you. But I still go back to the first part. How are we, from the point of view of understanding our customers and targeting a lot of our marketing actions, to get them to certain outcomes? So, for example, what Ratnesh was saying, that yes, I should know that there is a certain profile of a customer who's been owning my motorcycle for X number of years, maybe owns 2 or whatever it is. Now, I should be able to track that the ownership has been for the last X number of years. Now, what do I do with that information? I think we have to. I think it's very seductive to sort of think that, oh, we can have perfect information, that I'll be able to know everything about that person. I think somewhere we need to go back to the pre-digital days where we read a report and said, हाँ ऐसा एक customer है दो vehicle लेता है. Now at a certain life stage, he'll be ready to migrate to a slightly more luxurious vehicle. What should I do? What kind of products I should say maybe design, what kind of services I should design, what should be my acquisition strategy. And then it's art and craft and science that will get you results. But I think now we've pivoted to a situation where we are very obsessed with the perfectness of the answer. Oh, mathematics exam mein hota tha na ki matlab you must know everything, not just the answer. You must get it down to the right answer. That I don't know. I mean, that seems to be like a dead end street to me at times.
No, that's absolutely true. These are some areas where, Ratnesh and I on these discussions, especially on the area of balancing privacy versus, how much of knowledge of the customer is enough, and how do you balance it? How do companies ensure that in this quest for customer centricity, we are not actually, crossing the line of privacy? Is a very rich area. Like Ratnesh, any builds on how could actually companies achieve it without, going too data centric and too much of information which could actually be against customer privacy?
So see, you as I say, it's a thin line. So there are two aspects to it, and again, this is statistically being proven also. So one is what do you do with that, right? When a customer, you get a customer data, right, or you have some information. One is obviously you have to design an experience where he knows that you know, right, and that experience is a good experience, which will make that person feel good, right? Which means that the second is we've also seen customers are willing to share data provided what they get back in return, right? So I'm sharing my email with you, right? Which means I'm giving you to nurture me. Let's now again, some of the categories, unlike FMCG, are not impulsive purchases, right? They're nurtured, thought through purchases, right? In these categories, you will have to nurture the customer, right, through a journey. And today it is very, very critical because by the time he or she lands, the pandemic or not, 60-70% of the time, the research is more important than the buying decision. The buying decision has been reached because you have already researched. When that research and when they're researching and comparing and they prospect, by the way, so there is obviously a set of existing customers and there are new customers. Now for those prospects and all that, they're willing to share, but then they expect a reward. They expect a reward in terms of a better experience. They expect a reward in terms of that they'll get more material or research available with you. You're guiding them. Every interaction is carrying a value. So it is important that it's very easy to fill up a form and say share your email ID and a mobile number and all that, but what happens later, because if that experience doesn't go well, the next time customer will declick and says do not share my, they will not give you your email ID, or they will not, or they will very easy click off a button, and then or it goes into a junk or a spam or whatever and all that. Very easy to lose a customer today. It's a fickle, right? And today's new gen is virtually like this: one bad thing here and there, and then you're out of this, and they'll worst thing is they'll make sure they tweet it or whatever, so 10,000 more people will listen to it. So it is a responsibility of the organization who wants to acquire data to see what to do with that data and make meaningful interactions, value to the customer in every engagement out of it. If not, don't try it out. If you have to spam him with an email, please don't even go ahead and do this. You're going to probably create a more interested prospect than a new one. So yeah, you have to be careful. You have to add value in every interaction.
I agree.
And that brings me to one of my last and favorite questions, which is that, till now we've talked about what we should do and, how do we create the balance and collaboration and customer centricity. The other area is from a future perspective, what do you think as marketers we should stop doing, or unlearn?
I think one is stop being activity oriented. It is just don't do stuff because it's maybe part of some playbook that some other brand is doing, etc. You must do what works for you and what is as per your strategy. Completely agree with what Ratnesh says. There's no point in having an email marketing strategy if, boss, you're not, going to fundamentally do anything with that information. Similarly, I think you should really think hard about social media, because it is becoming an area where it's a large bit of it is about when there is bad news, things are put in social media. When very seldom do I see and absolutely, oh, I'm thrilled with this such and such brand. It's very rare nowadays. I think social media is becoming a playground for airing your grievances, because again, it's been metricized, right? Every company, and this is an actual experience I've had when a few years ago, I had a problem with with some device. Let me not name the brand, because the intent is not to name and shame. But it was a device. Okay, now traditionally, what would I do? I called up the helpline. Nobody answered. I went into an IVR. I registered my complaint. I got an SMS. Nothing happened for 4 days, 5 days, 6 days. I sent them an email. I didn't even get a response. Finally, I put it out on social media. Within 24 hours, somebody got in touch with me. Now, what that tells me is that, at one point in time, maybe 15 years ago, that the 1-800 number or a call center was the big thing. Before that, it was a postcard. You write an inland letter card, or you write a chitti and people will get back. Now it was phone karo to aapko company will attend to you. Then the phone went out of fashion, right? Then email happened. Now it is social media. And I think if you see, that's the way even a lot of customers, react. मैं social media में डाल दूंगा अगर आपने ठीक नहीं किया तो. So I think what one must stop doing is, just don't do an activity for the sake of doing it. Okay. I think the second one is that one must reduce the belief that everything can be measured. I think somewhere marketing is about the unknown, and we live in times where lots of things are unknown. Customers change their minds for the weirdest of reasons. It's not always a rational decision that you read in sort of psychology 101. At the end of the day, human beings don't always think rationally. There are a lot of things in the world will be different if we only thought rationally, right?
Not at all. In fact, my favorite has been human beings only post-rationalize.
That's a good way. But if you see, a lot of our actions, a lot of our, what goes as marketing tactics and, programs is following a certain rationale, right? I think we must just remain open that we can have we're throwing a dart blindfold, and you should expect कि वो center में नहीं थोड़ा off जाएगा. You need to calibrate along the way. So I think the second thing I would say is stop having this complete belief that these metrics and these measurement things can tell you everything. Things are uncertain. You must be ready to sort of put yourself out there as a brand, as a marketer. And I think the last thing is, it's not stop doing, but maybe a little bit of start doing. I think one must approach this as like scientists do. Okay. And when I say scientist, I mean from the point of view of experiments. Be ready to revisit your assumptions, do a few experiments, learn from those, maybe junk whatever you thought of, and think of a new experiment. And if that works, follow it till the time it stops working.
Absolutely. Like, in fact, the scientist side of it is absolutely powerful. One of the areas that we even talk from a marketing perspective, not just present, future, everywhere, is to be ready to fail as well. Like, not everything in life and every action you take will have success. But as long as you're ready to go on a long-term journey of learning, you will hit the sweet spot somewhere. Ratnesh, any builds on that in terms of what we should stop doing and future ready?
Yeah, I think it's something very fresh, because this is, you're aware Oracle starts June, right? So we're very, very fresh in our planning cycle. I think I told Sarvagya thing, we should stop creating these annual plans, right? And it's something because of the fact, in fact, I will share with you, we've actually focused and said, next 6 months, first H1, let's create and do and execute whatever it is. And by October, November, we'll have to go back on drawing board to see what is working, what is not working. Creating a start of a wishful plan and activity templates and these executions, absolutely. I think what I'm trying to say is exactly the same thing. There is so much happening. There's so much, you have to be a bit reactive now. You have to try things, and then, if the things don't work, uh, one advantage of being this whole thing measurability coming in out here, it's very easy now in the world of digital to get some quantifiable data back. So the results come out very quickly, right? You can test it out, you can test everything out, most of the things, right? Your messaging, your execution, your way or media of execution, test that out. Nahi, if it is not working, go in. And there's so much of innovations happening. Keep an eye open, like you said, the scientist mind of yours. So you have to, you can't say that I've designed this system and I've got into this now, next year let's run this for an year or 2 years and then see what happens. You could probably, yes, the overall strategy shouldn't change, right? Strategies are long term. You cannot change an organization strategy or a department overall thought process and strategy. You need to be aligned to it. But in terms of execution, in terms of adaptability to the new things, I think you should not be prefixed on whatever you said. You can easily dump it, and today's technologies allows you to do that, right? You can take it, experiment it, not there, go to this. You hear about something new, try it out. It's always today's, it enables. And most of the service providers or product or these companies, techno companies, and including Oracle, they are open to the fact that there will be a customer who will adopt this, take it, find success, go next step further, and further and further. Right? Incidentally, right, I think your sister concerned Bajaj Finance. I think it's a case study for within Oracle how they use us, right? And I know their journey. They were not such a big customer. They're one of our largest customers, by the way, in India. They just started small, but today what they do with us is amazing. But it's been almost a 6-7 years of a journey where they've reached, and they're very open from innovations perspective. They keep asking us. They all actually sit on the customer advisory board of Oracle Marketing and understand what is new coming in. So it's a journey.
No, you're right. It's a great example. I mean, start small, sort of build momentum. It also tells you that things, even in today's age, sort of fast-changing digital age, it does take time, and
Yes.
you need to give yourself that time and space to sort of reflect, go over it. Don't be dogmatic. If this works good, then move on to the next. As I said, scientists experiment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the scientist example is bang on. Like you
Yeah.
do live with some flexi planning, do make some assumptions, have an hypothesis, but it's not always that the hypothesis and assumption is going to give you a result. I think, and that this whole constantly being result oriented could be possibly an area that one needs to be flexible towards.
Yeah.
With that, Narayan, would you like to leave us with some closing notes of this discussion?
Well, closing notes to nahi, that sounds, I mean, that would not be, that sounds, I feel very old to say closing notes, but I do honestly believe that, the practice of marketing requires that marketers rediscover their mojo in some manner. It's a lot of marketing is getting extremely fragmented, and it is becoming less about strategy and starting to become about sloganeering almost, and that is something that really worries me. So as my sort of last sort of closing comment, I think that's the biggest challenge before marketing in an age where digital is throwing up so much opportunity as well as challenges. Opportunities because there are so many ways in which we can, as Ratnesh was saying, you have ways in which you can test out what you're doing, get feedback, modify, lots of benefits. Challenges because there is so much being thrown at customers. They are literally wading in data, and they are wading in the digital universe. So we should not take ourselves for granted as brands or as people who are talking to customers. We should be very mindful of the environment that they're in. So it's both an opportunity and a challenge, but I think it requires that marketing sort of rediscovers its mojo, think about exactly why they're doing what they're doing.
I completely, especially on the Mojo bit, I so agree with it. Like we need to take the stress out of marketing and go back to the marketing days of creating stories, connections. And yes, there is a certain purpose, as you said in the beginning as well, to marketing, which undoubtedly is the case. Ratnesh, any closing notes?
No, I think great interactions. I said, one of my favorite industries, automobiles. So great, and to have you here. It's always great to talk in for this industry or with an industry veteran like you. Hope to in a probably in not so future, not so long. I think would love to meet you next time when I land in Bombay or
Sure, sure.
and
Good.
It's like from Modi Chai, Charcha has come, but I typically have a lot of this thing where I go and just for a cup of tea and interact, and that's how I do because yeah, go to market and execution Sarvagya is always there for executing my work in India. So yeah, that's great conversation as a
Yeah, lovely
yeah.
conversation. Great.
Sarvagya, any closing notes on your end?
A great conversation. I'll be in touch, Narayan, and maybe we can collaborate in doing some things together.
Sure.
Go with that. Yeah.